Okay, it's finally time to put this all together. So before, we created our messages just by setting a variable messages and building that list of dictionaries. What we can also do is write ourselves a little function. This is a function called messages for, and it takes in the contents of our website. And it will return our list of dictionaries. It's going to return 2 dictionaries. The first of them is role system. Content is the system prompt that we defined up there somewhere. The second one is role user, and the content is the user prompt prefix followed by this website that's passed in. Okay, that sounds good. Remember, the prefix looks up there. Maybe we should put in an extra empty line there. That's probably a good idea. So that website will then get shoved in underneath. All right, let's run this. We've just defined a function that will return this list of dictionaries when we pass in a website. So we have a website. We have one in the variable ed. It contains all of my personal web page. So if I run this cell, we'll see what we get. We get something which is indeed a list of dictionaries. There's one dictionary that's got role system, content, and it's your assistant analyzes contents of a website. And then role user, here are the contents of a website. And if I scroll, you will see that it's got the full contents of my website. So hopefully this is super simple. We've written a function. It can manufacture this list of dictionaries. The list of dictionaries contains a system prompt and a user prompt. The system prompt is telling it, you summarize websites. The user prompt says, hey, here's a website to summarize. And then it has the contents of the website. Okay, and now it's time to bring it together in this lovely function right here. Okay, and just before we run this summarize function, I want to mention I did just make a little tweak to the system prompt. I added in this sentence, do not wrap the markdown in a code block. And this is a little trick that you sometimes see that prevents it from putting extra stuff around the response. Not super important, but makes the results a bit better. Okay, so this here, this summarize, this is the function that brings it all together. We start, it takes a URL like edwarddonner.com. It starts by calling fetch website contents. That, you'll remember, is my utility that goes off and pulls a website's contents. We put that in a variable website. We then call openai.chat.completions.create. That is the chat completions API that is new to you now, but you will soon know that off by heart. You will dream it. Yeah, know it so well. It takes 2 things. It takes a model, and we'll be using GPT 4.1 mini, and it takes messages, which needs to be the list of dictionaries. Well, we can get that by calling our function messages for our website. That function just here, it returns the list of dictionaries. Exactly what we want. And with whatever comes back, we call choices0.message.content. Let's run that function. It's now been defined, and let's give it a try. Let's call it for my website, edwarddonner.com, and see what comes back. This is now making the system and user message, putting it in a dictionary, in dictionaries in a list, sending it to GPT. And before I can finish explaining it, it's come back. We've got an answer. Here is a summary of my website, a little snapshot of my website about me. It's a bit hard to see because it's all on one line and it's not so formatted. And we can fix that quickly by making another function called display summary. It will call that function here. It will call summarize with the given URL. And then it will use this utility display markdown, which is a nice way to show markdown elegantly inside one of these labs. So if I run this, then once again, it's building the system message, the user message, packaging them up, calling the chat completions API. And with what comes back, I have to actually run display summary for my website. Now it's actually doing that, making a system prompt and a user message, sending it off. And what comes back, bam, is this website summary. This website is the personal and professional homepage of Edward Donner, a coder and AI enthusiast who enjoys experimenting with large language models. That sounds like me. It says Nebula, and it's got some projects. It's about my interests and some posts and announcements summarized and how to reach me. So we've just done it. We've just built something that's able to take a website, scrape it and summarize it using a call to OpenAI running in the cloud, connected to the API key in your .env file. Congratulations. Try it with some different websites, experiment with it. And hey, you can go to the system prompt and mess with that. How about we get a snarky version of the website instead of the normal version? Any of these things are possible. Go and experiment and explore and have fun calling the OpenAI API. Well, let's have some fun. Since I mentioned we can change the system prompt, let's go and do that. Let's go back up to the system prompt here. Instead of you're a helpful assistant, let's make this you are a snarky assistant that analyzes the contents of a website and provides a short, snarky, humorous summary. And then run that. Let's redefine the system prompt. Let's just go straight back down and rerun this line here to summarize Edward Donner. Let's do the display version, make it the pretty version of it. Run that and run display summary and see what we get. Edward Donner's nerdy playground. Ed is your friendly neighborhood code monkey who's obsessed with playing DJ badly, stalking Hacker News like it's the only social interaction he needs. Latest news like you're dying to know. So wonderfully, just with that tiny change, we've been able to get a snarky version, not just a Reader's Digest version, but a snarky version. And we can also use this to do different kinds of tones and styles and try it with other websites too. And so I'll keep it on snarky mode and let's look at what CNN's news of the day is. It's now collecting all of CNN's website, the news site, and it's coming. The CNN, the glorious smorgasbord of everything news. Welcome to CNN, where you get your daily dose of global chaos, celebrity heart breaks, and government shenanigans in one place. Trying to escape world wars, hurricanes, and political drama? Too bad. It's all here, front and center. So, because nothing says fun like a political stalemate. So wonderfully, this has given us a summary of the news, but also a snarky version of it as well. And you can try some different websites here too. What you'll discover is that this is a pretty simplistic solution. The way that I'm scraping web pages will only work for web pages that don't get rendered in the client. Web pages that you can just fetch them remotely and you'll get the full content. And that doesn't work for too many websites. But luckily, there's an easy way to build this out yourself if you know about this. If you know about tools like Selenium or Playwright, then you can build this yourself. And many students have. And that brings me to the topic of the community contributions. So over here in week 1 is a folder called community contributions. And it's a place where you can put your own projects. And if I open this up, you'll see that a lot of people have come and done this, which is such a joy. You can come in here and add in your own exercises and your own examples. It could be as simple as changing the system prompt to translate a web page to French or Spanish, hopefully better than any of my Spanish. And you can do anything that you want, but use this as an opportunity to make changes and to share them with other students. And there are instructions on how you do that in the guides. There's a guide on the Git and GitHub guide, includes instructions for how you submit what's called a PR, a pull request, which lets me merge in your changes into the repo. And I would love that. And I'd love it if you shared it. And it's a great way to add value to the whole community and to get your work seen and get me to see it and look at it and comment on it as well. So I want to mention that there are so many business applications of what we've built. The fact that we've just experienced calling a frontier model in the cloud, and we've then given it some instructions to summarize it, to change the tone, we could translate it. There are so many different ways that you could extend this and use it. And you will see many of them in community contributions. So many things. Someone added it to call the Yahoo Finance API to summarize stock movements. There's lots of other stuff in here, and you should be inspired by this, but try and take it in your own direction. Apply it to your business or to some personal thing that's been on on your mind, a pain point that you think you can fix, a simple way that you can make a call that involves collecting a web page and doing something with that web page. It's such an open canvas. There's so many different commercial directions that you can take this. This idea of summarization or translation, this is one of the most essential and simple Gen AI use cases, and you now know how to do it, and you can apply this to any problem you want. So please do that, apply it to a different business, and try it out for yourself. Try making something and have fun with it above all.